Hey, welcome back to part 2 of the Master's Apprentice, Learn to Be Like Jesus. We've been talking about Sabbath, and has this been a
Not
restful time?
controversial at all.
It's not controversial. Has this been a restful time so far, Dustin? I know today. I mean, today you're off work, right? So, are you Sabbathing right now? Does this count as Sabbathing, or
No, it
it
does
doesn't?
not. I feel like this is part of producing, but maybe I'm wrong. Uh,
You're probably right. You're probably right. I don't. I
it
wouldn't consider this Sabbathing.
out of all of the disciplines, this is the one for good reason. This is the one I'm struggling with the most to incorporate.
Yeah.
Um, and there's multiple reasons for that, and I could use a bunch of reasons to justify it, but at the end of the day, I'm just not making the space for it.
Yep.
And so it's been tough, and I'm feeling it. Um, I am caught up right now in the 7 day a week kind of cycle, and it's been this way for a while now. We just added, just due to how people's schedules are, um, added another group.
Mm.
Um, so now we're meeting Saturday and Sunday. And so that has made it a little more difficult to
Yeah.
try to practice.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we could find the space. Like we could do a traditional Sabbath of like evening to evening, like a
Mm-hmm.
Friday evening to a Saturday evening, and it technically it could work. I just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's just not been something that's been a part of a rhythm, and I've just gotten out of it. And really, even when I was trying to practice it, and we can get into this later, but there's a part of this, like we could call it like a J curve of where you're going to get worse before you get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I never got past the worst to the better. I stopped. So that's also an issue of like, man, I've just really stunk at this. And
Right.
so anyway, there's multiple reasons why it has not gone well,
Mm-hmm.
or it's not a part of my rhythm right now, and it should be. And I'm definitely feeling the effects of not having it, but I've just got to put it into
Yeah.
motion and plan it.
This really isn't Sabbathing. The closest that we have to that right now is our family nights on Friday.
Mm, yeah,
Um, but I mean, Fridays are not restful days, like not even by a long shot. But there's a few hours on Friday evening where we're not
yeah,
working, we're not hustling, we're not trying to figure things out, we're not checking emails, we're not, and for the most part, we're not on our phones. We try to put our phones up. Like that's like the closest of the elements of Sabbathing that we have right now are happening for a
yeah,
few hours on Friday nights, and that's fairly consistent for us.
yeah,
And it's a type of Sabbathing, but it's like barely. Like, does that make sense? It's like
yeah,
there are some principles of it being applied, but it could be much better in how that goes. What about like because and part of that also, once again, it's not to make excuses, just being honest. It's like my wife's schedule just like changed majorly too on our end, and like we're still trying to figure those things out, and like
yeah,
and sometimes the schedule is different, so it's like we have like this alternating schedule on stuff, and and we homeschool the kids, so sometimes if I wasn't able to get certain things done, it's like a lot of it ends up getting pushed further in the week. Then that's when I'm going to work on those things, because now I can like get away more or like work on this other thing. So it's like it.
sure,
So part of that is just trying to be more organized, thinking more ahead. I think for us, Dustin, I think we're gonna have to probably be more on the idea, instead of like, okay, we're gonna incorporate a weekly Sabbath now. I think it's gonna be more like, okay, we're looking on our calendar. We're going to schedule one for this day.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to have to look like for us to actually incorporate that. And we need to. We need to badly as well. I wanted to ask you this briefly. Did growing up in your family, did you have any kind of or sort of Sabbath growing up?
I would say no. Um, there was obviously the idea of like the day of rest, if you will, where we went to church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my dad pastored,
Mm-hmm.
so there was Sunday was not a restful day
Mm-hmm.
because you know, as a pastor's kid, you were there early on
Mm-hmm.
Sunday before everyone. You were there
Mm-hmm.
late, and you went back Sunday night. There was even when my dad didn't pastor, we tended to go to churches where we had quite a ways of drive. I don't know why that ended up that way, but it did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour drive. And so by the time you got home at 8, had like a couple hours, and then you had to drive all the way back.
Right.
It we really didn't have anything in place like that. We just knew that Sunday was the day that we went to
Right.
church, and that that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
There were, and my dad, he worked part. No, I shouldn't say, but he worked full time with a job, and he pastored too. So like he was
Right.
very busy.
Yeah.
Um, so us as a family having that kind of option was not a, well, for one, we didn't see Sabbath as something to be practiced,
Sure.
but even if we did, it would have been difficult.
Well, for us, first of all, like for the most part, growing up, even if we wouldn't have called it this, we would have had like somewhat of a rule of life. In the sense of, I at certain points I learned on what days certain things would happen, and so my family was pretty consistent. Like we ate at the same times in a day, generally speaking, and we knew what was happening what day. When it came to like Sabbathing, I would say there's certain principles of it that we did practice on Sundays. We wouldn't have called it Sabbathing necessarily, but what that would are you having some internet issues there, Dustin? A little bit.
I think so.
Oh, okay, I haven't lost you though. I wasn't sure if you were still there, to be honest. Uh,
No, I'm here. It's
okay,
just a little
just
slow.
okay. So we didn't have like cell phones or anything back in the day, right? But on Sundays, it was kind of busy at first because, we'd have church on Sunday, but we lived on the opposite for us. We lived 2 blocks away from the church we went to.
Oh wow,
We would walk to church on Sunday morning. Okay.
that's crazy.
Most of the time we would walk to church on Sunday morning, unless like in the winter season. But, and, so that's kind of a unique childhood experience for me, getting to walk to church on Sunday morning. But, and we had to get there early too, well, especially when I became a teenager and I became more involved with different things at the church. I had to get there way early before a lot of people, because then I started
Yeah,
like, but so I'm going to go before that. I'm going to talk before I became a teenager and like got really involved. My dad was the choir director, and so we'd have to be there early for like choir practice on Sunday night. But because we'd have like a Sunday morning church service and a Sunday night church service, the whole deal. But then I had to be there early, even though I wasn't old enough to be in the choir. I had to be there at the building as my dad's doing choir
sure.
practice. But and not that we watched a lot anyway, but like on Sundays we didn't do any television. On Sundays we didn't do any like computer games or like any. So like we never even turned the computers on Sunday. We never turned the TV on a Sunday. And on Sunday afternoon, we all took naps.
Hmm.
Like required. Like we get home, we have lunch. All right, guys, you're all taking naps.
Yeah,
So, and then we'd get up a couple hours later, get cleaned up, and go to choir practice, and then have the Sunday night service, and then come home and, not really do much in the evening. It was still no computer, no TV. It was just like have dinner, which was normally like leftover lunch, and go to bed. So there's elements of it that were there. To even though Sundays in a sense were busy, we always had a nap on Sunday. When we didn't busy our minds with games or with television, it was quiet rest. Although I always tried being able to get a few rounds of playing with my micro machines in. For those that know what micro machines are, which are still a thing, but trust me, they were way cooler when I was a kid. Trust me.
Well, what about, since now you have your own family, like what has your attempts at Sabbath looked like? And I could share mine, but
we haven't had very many.
What does that look like?
So, our attempts at Sabbath, I have to say, we've never tried a whole day yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so moment of honesty here as we're talking about this. We've never actually tried practicing a whole day. The times we've practiced it have all been partial Sabbaths. For us, what that meant was turning our phones off. No screen time for anybody. So like no tablets for the kids. We're not streaming TV shows. It meant we could read, we could lounge, we could rest, we could play a game together, go for a walk and chill. But it was like the few times that we've tried it, it was for a section of time. So like, I don't know, like 6 hours or 4 hours, like sections like that, where our phones were completely off and all we had was each other, or scripture, or prayer. And that was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That alone, turning off the phone, no access to any type of your normal type of entertainment. And that type of change alone was a break for us. Like that was like, oh, I actually can go this long without staying connected and without checking up on people and without having to know what I've missed out on and we put our phones away. And you do that thing where you like start checking your pocket. Oh, that's right. I don't have that right now. You need to have like the phantom vibrations. It's like, exactly. I think I got a text. No, I couldn't have. My phone's off in a cabinet somewhere. So yeah, that's what it's looked like for us. That's like the practical aspects of that. And it's always been really good. We've just been really bad at it and have not done it very much. And we've definitely not done a whole day.
Yeah.
But that's coming. It is coming. This is one of the reasons we're talking about these things. That is something that in fact, we were just looking. We want to get like an official like device box that we.
Oh, okay.
And
so I've seen those.
Now that'll apply more to me and my wife before the kids. They really don't have like a bunch of devices or anything right now because they're all fairly young. But it's part of a teaching thing that for ourselves and for our kids to know, hey, we're resting, we're Sabbathing for either the day or for this period of time. And during that, we're not going to be on our phones at all because we're not doing any type of work through our phones or connecting on our phones. No one's going to interrupt us. And so they're in the box. And so we want to be able to have this literal box where it's like, they're in the box. That's what it is right now. Now, you can get like legit ones that have like a timer of when they unlock and stuff. You'd have to be really okay with not having your like you can't open it till the timer goes up. But we want to practice that as a principle and eventually, implement more of that with the kids as they get older too. So like our oldest right now doesn't have a phone, but they have an old iPhone that they like use to take pictures and like have a couple of
Yeah.
games on it or like whatever. So that's her phone, but it's not
Sure.
connected to the internet. It doesn't have like you can't make phone calls or anything. But she loves that thing. And so
Sure.
we would have her put hers in the box too,
Yeah.
you know, would be a part of that. Anyway, so that's what that would look like, has looked like. That's what we want it to look like. And we got to put a day on the calendar soon.
Yeah. I think we've never, when we've practiced it, we've never done a partial day. So I'm on the total other side.
Well, that's good. Between the two of us, I'm glad one of us have done it. So that's good.
So when I was trying it more consistently, we would set aside time 2 or 3 days before, and we would just plan out what it would look like. And so I had a sheet that I just pulled out, and we had blocks of time, whether it was what I was doing was a Friday night to a Saturday night. And we would, as soon as I got off, it started, right? Got home, put the phones away, and we would typically we'd have some kind of like movie or something the kids wanted to watch. We'd watch that, and then after we'd all go to bed at a decent time. We'd sleep in, and then we'd ask the kids, you know, what if you could pick one thing that we did today, what would that thing be?
That's cool.
And we tried to incorporate that into the day at some point in time. And then since it was a whole day, Donna and I, we were like, okay, we can only look at our phone to check if there's anything going on or anything that we need to know at these points in time. And there's like 3 different points. So there was one before we went to bed, there was one like midday, and there was one in the afternoon, something like that. And we could check just to make sure everything's fine, nothing's going on, but then we put it up and we keep going. And then I'd also have times where Don and I would coordinate where we would take at least an hour or 2, depending on how much we wanted, just to read and spend time with God, undistracted, away from kids. Like the other one would be playing with the kids and doing whatever. We would make sure that we each had that opportunity, and then we just do stuff together as a family. And so that worked really well. We were doing it fairly consistently, enough to where the kids were asking, is it Sabbath yet?
That's great. I love that.
Well, for them, it was like, Dad and Mom aren't going to be on their phones.
Yeah.
It was pretty much what that was, which tells us, you know, how much we're glued to our phone.
Right.
But they really enjoyed it, and it was something I enjoyed. It's just, once again, it's kind of fallen off, but that's kind of how we approached it. And obviously there's a lot of stuff you can build on, but
Right.
that's kind of what it looked like for us when we were practicing it.
Right. You know, something for us that we recently talked about is that sometimes like grocery shopping gets pushed onto the weekend
Yeah.
because of life. And I totally get that. But we were talking about it the other day, and it was like neither of us enjoy that. Like, who enjoys shopping? Everybody does it. Nobody enjoys doing it. Shopping on the weekend. So, as much of a pain as this is, let me tell you what's better than shopping on the weekend, which will also help to increase your opportunity for Sabbath, even if it's a partial Sabbath. Earlier in the week, so if you have a job that's not super early in the morning, like in the morning, super early, you can actually shop really early in the morning. That's the first thing. Walmart opens like at 5 or 6 in the morning. I know, it's like, what? No, but trust me, if you go to Walmart at like 6 in the morning on a Monday and do your grocery shopping, that is awesome, because don't know where that came from. Woo!
Bless you.
Is that is way better than Friday night realizing, oh man, after the kids' game tomorrow, we got to go to the store.
Yep.
Okay. Or on the flip side, maybe you have an early shift. You don't want to go to the store after work. I know that. But if you do that earlier in the week, it's better than being stuck with it on the weekend. Now, when I say weekend, people's weekends can be different, and I want to be clear on that too. Like, because of your work schedule, maybe your weekend is in the middle of the week. What I'm saying is, on the days that it's just you don't normally want to do that, get it out of the way. You're already been working. You've already been doing all this. Go ahead and do those type of things. You do the laundry on those days. Do the shopping on those days. Do the running around on those days. If you can, doctor's appointments, schedule it. Try to put that on the days that are already busy, which seems counterintuitive, but trust me, it's like, if you do those simple type of steps like that, you'll have more opportunity for rest and for Sabbath. Because you stacked your busyness and just got it out of the way. And what I'm arguing for is that having a day that's extra busy, but it's already going to be busy anyway, but you put an extra couple hours into that day. But then you're creating a whole day or a half of a day that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't have done that. And the benefits of that are like, wow. Like someone, man, I'm going to forget his name again. The person who I think talked about this really well was, where's this book? I would remember. There it is. Justin Early talks about this. He was talking about, like, if he has to, and he's like a lawyer and like working on stuff, if throughout the week, if whatever his normal shift of work, if he has to work an extra hour or two each of those days in order to get the work done, that's better than having to go in on a 6th or a 7th day and taking that 5 to 8 hours of work that he didn't stack and have to do it all on that other day.
Yeah.
So once again, depending on your type of work, you might not be able to do that type of thing, but these are just like little tips. Even if it's not work, it's all the other stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
So don't push all of your laundry and your shopping and your all of those things. Don't push that all into the same day.
Yes.
It might be convenient in the moment, but once you get to that day, it's like, why did we do this for? Yeah. And so maybe stay up a little bit late that night and do the laundry, right? Yeah. All those things. Yeah. That doesn't sound fun, but I think there's a better. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say what you're hinting at. As we kind of try to help people, if you're going to practice this, some helpful tips. You have to prepare ahead of time. This is not something that you can just, like with Bible reading, obviously it's better to prepare, but you can wing that. You can just open up the Bible and start reading. Right? You have to prepare for this. And that's ahead of time, making sure that you have the laundry and all. Like we even when we were doing this practice more consistently, we would have crockpot meals ready for the next day, to where we didn't have to be concerned with preparing. Like breakfast was already pre-made muffins from the store. It was just simple, easy, don't have to think, don't have to work, prepare. It's all done for you kind of meals. So
that's great.
You have to get out ahead of this thing and prepare. The children of Israel did the same thing. The day before, they had to gather and prepare and be ready for the following day. Like it's just that concept of preparation.
This
Not only
happened.
before.
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
this happened yesterday. I was in my office, and some of the kids are still like relearning that when I'm working. So it's like some of them have gotten it, some of them are like hard time, and so I'm working right now. I love you.
Yeah.
We spend lots of time together, but now is not that time. I'm working right
Right.
now, and they didn't get it. They didn't get it, and I said, listen, if I can get all that I want to get done today, then I won't have to do this tomorrow. And they went, oh, and they left. Like light bulb moment of, oh, Dad's saying if he can get all this work done now, he'll have more time that he can spend with me tomorrow.
Right.
Instead of me stretching my work out indefinitely. It's like, hey, I can
Right.
create these cutoff points. But what I would say this, like planning, right? I'd say work hard so you can rest hard.
Yeah.
Right? If you really want to go all out, turn your phones off, not think about all those things, you prepare for it, you work hard for it, and then you get to enjoy it. Because that's a part of it. Like, if you're just kind of working and you're like kind of doing these things, it's just like, and then you kind of do a rest, it's like it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. It's not making any sense. And so you plan ahead for it, you expect for it, you do all the work necessary to make it happen. And if you're already a really busy person and already working really hard, it'll feel that much difficult. But I would argue it's still worth it if you make it happen.
Yeah. And not only preparation for the day, like to be ready for it, you have to also prepare for what you're doing. Because
Right.
you
Have a plan.
cannot, yeah, you cannot just walk into that and, well, we're here. Now
There you
what?
go. Right. Right. Have a plan. Know if you're going to have your phones off. Know if you're not doing screen time or if you are doing screen time. Know if you're going to be spending time reading. Know if you're going to be
Yeah.
doing board games or not board games. Know if you're going to is this all going to be at home
Right.
or are you going somewhere else? Will this involve other people at all or is it just
Right.
you? And if you have a
Right.
family, your family, right? Because there's other elements of Sabbath that you can do,
Yeah.
right? But you've got to have a plan for it of, okay, what is this Sabbath going to look like? And through trial and error, you'll also find out what actually works and what doesn't for being
Yeah.
able to use this to be with Jesus and to enjoy his creation. What's actually succeeding in doing that? So yeah,
And that's going to change.
100%.
You got it locked in for this season, but that's going to change. So just
So
be fluid with it.
So let me tell the alternative, Dustin. And I'm the one who's like not, and both of us are admitting like we're not really practicing Sabbath right now. Like maybe
Yeah.
some little bits of it, like principle, like family night is like this bits of it, right?
Sure.
But not really like 3 hour game night for family night isn't really Sabbath. That's just a family game night. That's like
Right.
it's a really short period of time. So not enough to be rested. And it was a new game, so we had to teach the kids the game, and it was it was intense. It was not rest. It was fun. It was absolute blast. It was not restful. What was I going to say with that? Oh, the alternative isn't very good, and I already see it. Is if you don't, we've saved this for almost last. We do have one more discipline to talk about, but it's interesting. If we don't make room for Sabbath at all, zero, other stuff starts to break down. Now, what I mean by that is this. Maybe other things that you've learned aren't healthy for you, you'll start going back into them again because you don't have a built-in break coming.
Yeah.
So, and I can speak from this personally, because I'll find myself into a forced Sabbath, and we don't have time to explain what that is right now. But basically, your body, mind, and soul demanded that you're not working today. Usually that ends up in getting sick, and so you had to have a sick day from work because your body forced you into a Sabbath of like, nope, you're not going anywhere, you're not doing anything. Is you start doing your body, I don't explain this. You'll start doing bad habits of at bedtime, instead of praying or reading scripture or just going to bed, you start scrolling longer than you should because you're tired, you're worn down, your brain can't even process stuff anymore, and you just want to zone out. And so that's not the healthiest way to rest,
Yeah.
but because you don't have a rest coming, you take the bad counterfeit version of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That's what
Yep.
And so
Totally.
I've currently found myself in that season right like now. This is why I'm bringing it up. I'm being really vulnerable and honest right now. It's like that's
too.
I'm in that season right now to
Yeah.
where, and it's really frustrating because it's like, and I started running again. I've been running for like the last 40 days, like 37 of the last 40 days I've been running, which has been really great for me. But I'm still having a hard time going to sleep at night. And that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
But it's because I've allowed these bad habits of rest to where I'm watching too much YouTube. And that's my thing. Other people I'm telling you, YouTube is like my kryptonite. It's like I can watch YouTube for a very long time. And so the past few nights, I've fallen asleep watching YouTube. Because that's like my escape from knowing that there's a lot that I'm going to have to work on tomorrow, but I don't want to think about that right now. So to distract my mind from working, I'm going to watch this video. And that's because my mind and soul knows I don't have a planned break. And so we choose escapism instead of Sabbath.
That's good.
And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm choosing escapism over Sabbath because not only do I not have a Sabbath coming, I haven't even been talking about it. Like it's not, like outside of like bigger breaks. So like, my wife and I are planning a brief getaway for our anniversary coming up. And that'll be a type of Sabbath rest for us, but that's like months away. We're actually trying to have this family vacation planned, which, that we desperately need to have and go, but that's months away. And if you're not doing any type of Sabbath besides a family vacation, the family vacation only gets you so far if you're going to go right back to an unhealthy rhythm of no rest.
Right.
And before you know it, it'll be 11 o'clock at night and you're escapism instead of Sabbath. So anyway, any other thoughts on that?
That's
Dustin?
good. I think that's a good way to sum it up is if we don't take the rest, we will find other alternatives that are not as helpful. And I think that's a perfect way to put it. I think we need to take the good rest as opposed to the bad. And there is a forced Sabbath as well. If you run too hard, too much, your body just shuts down. And so do what you can in this season. Prepare, plan, and be willing to have that J curve. You're going to get worse at this before it gets better. So do not give up. If you got a
that's the word I need today.
And kids,
I'm all up in that J curve.
It's going to be a work in progress. Don't give up. Keep fighting. Do the opposite of what me and Caleb have done. Keep fighting. Keep making it a priority, and it will get better.
Yes.
And I say that not because of personal experience, because obviously I hadn't made it past the downslope, but from what I've heard from other people, it gets better. You got to push
Yeah.
through.
Yep.
And once you get into the rhythm, once you get into enjoying Sabbath as opposed to fighting it, it's so much better. And I got to get back to that. Sounds like you do too.
Yep. Sounds like we have some work to do, which
We
means
do.
we'll probably revisit this in the future. See, I'm going to put this out there now because we got to put this accountability out there. We'll get back to you on how we're doing with incorporating
Yeah.
Sabbath back into our lives. And I think that'll be so. If you don't see us updating you on that at some point in the near future, you need to comment and say, "Yo,
Yes.
how's that Sabbath going?"
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been
Well,
good.
we got one left.
We have one discipline left next week, talking about community. That's not the last episode of Master's Apprentice, but that is the last episode going through these systematically, and our conversations have just begun.
They have.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and you are the faithful and the few who've gone on to this second video and made it to the end. Thank you. Please hit that like and subscribe button and share.
See you next time.
Later.